my name is Amanda Stanley, and my speech today is called Why We Need to Help the Bees. According to the University of Georgia honey bee program, a strawberry bud needs to be visited by a bee, or more than likely multiple bees, 11 times to grow the very best fruit. A few years ago, after having cucumbers and squash that didn't grow quite right, even though my nanny is a master gardener, my papa decided to start researching to figure out what other things might cause these vegetables to grow funny. This is what he found. Many plants need to be pollinated by bees or other pollinating insects to grow properly. Meaning, if a cucumber flower or a squash blossom isn't visited by enough pollinating insects, it may grow bigger at one end or smaller at one end, and it's just not going to look like the vegetables that you find at the grocery store. Here's a picture of a bee pollinating a squash blossom. If this bee does not visit this squash enough, no matter what else you do gardening-wise, this squash will not grow. If a squash blossom is never visited by a bee or pollinating insect, it will not turn into a fruit or vegetable, no matter what you do, gardening-wise. My grandparents' love of gardening and our love of fresh produce and local honey is why we now have bees. Here's a picture of our beehives. Last week, this is a swarm that was getting ready to make a new hive. Today I'm going to talk to you about why we need bees to pollinate many of our crops, not just the ones we eat, why bees are in danger, and what we as humans can do, and why we must help. Bees are pollinators. What that means is that bees or other pollinating insects like butterflies, some beetles, must visit fruits, vegetables, and even nuts for them to grow. Pollination means when a pollinating insect visits the male plant and then visits the female plant. This process must take place for any of these plants to grow. According to the University of Georgia honeybee program, the added value to agriculture of bees is estimated at $14 billion in the U.S. alone. The USDA has that estimate at as much as $27 billion a year. Either way, bees really affect our bottom line as farmers. In many areas, farmers pay beekeepers to bring beehives into their fields during crop production to help not only the farmers, but the beekeepers too. Their crop yields are much higher for the farmer and for the beekeeper when this symbiotic relationship happens. The bees come in and they pollinate the farmer's crop, whatever he's growing, cashews, apples, whatever it is. And then the honey production for the bees goes up because they have flowers that they get to get pollen from. If you see honey in a store that says clover or wildflower or orange blossom, that's because that's what the bees were getting pollen from at the time the honey was made. Without bees and other pollinators, we couldn't grow many of the fruits and vegetables we all love on such a grand scale. Apples, cucumbers, squash, watermelons, and tomatoes all need pollination to grow properly. While some of these can be pollinated by hand, that is a very time-consuming process, which makes it very expensive. Bees also pollinate crops that we don't eat directly. Crops that are used for animal grazing also need pollination to thrive. Farmers often also plant something called a cover crop on fields they are not using that season to put nutrients back into the field and to help to avoid soil erosion. And as you guessed it, those crops need pollination too. So why are bees in danger? Bees are in danger in the United States more than other countries because of some of the things we do as a nation. First, have you seen all these yellow weeds that are popping up in your yard? Those are called dandelions, and they are one of the first things that bees can eat when they get out of their winter hibernation. We as Americans think they're ugly and spray them with pesticides. That has a twofold effect. It kills the bee's food, but if a bee visits that flower and gets pollen from that flower and takes it back to its hive, it can actually kill off the entire hive of bees. Many other countries have banned the use of pesticides, insecticides, and neonicotinoids as they have shown to be detrimental to beehive production. So what can we all do to help? First, let your weeds grow. The establishment of the American lawn is a debate I will have to save for another speech. But who even decided that dandelions were weeds? Bees love them, but people like them too. The sale of dandelion greens is a booming business, and it's seeing its way to the mainstream markets and not just the farmers markets anymore. Dandelion tea is pretty good too. In recent weeks, as we've all been home so much more, I've even seen people making dandelion wine. If you can't stand the sight of them, just pull them. Don't spray them with chemicals that are poisonous to the bees. Another thing we can all do is plant flowers. Even if you live in an apartment, you can put a pot of flowers near your door or on your balcony. If you live in a house, put some flowers in your yard and relax and watch the bees and the butterflies come in for a visit. When buying flowers, make sure to buy plants that haven't been treated with neonicotinoids, as you will end up doing more harm than good. As beekeepers, we planted 10 whole acres of clover this year. We also planted milkweed, which the monarch butterflies need to lay their eggs on, as it is the only food the monarchs can eat in the first few days after they have hatched from their egg. I want you to know that I am doing what I can to help the pollinators and not just our bees. We need bees and other pollinators to be able to survive as happy, healthy humans. Without them, our food simply can't grow. We can all do something, even something small, to help our pollinating friends. Thank you.